The Zephyrian Deep Space Scanner Array hummed with quiet efficiency as it swept across the void between star systems. Commander Zeltar watched the holographic displays with practiced eyes, monitoring the endless stream of data flowing through their most advanced detection network. For 3 cycles, nothing unusual had appeared on their sensors. Trade ships, mining vessels, and the occasional patrol craft followed their predictable routes through this sector of space. Then something changed. A new signature appeared on the edge of their scanning range, moving at impossible speeds through the asteroid belt near the 4th planet. The computer system struggled to process the readings, cycling through multiple analysis protocols before finally settling on a classification that made Zeltar's breathing slits flutter in confusion. "Unknown vessel detected," announced Science Officer Vixari from her station. "Configuration does not match any known species in our databases." Zeltar moved closer to examine the readouts. The ship was massive, easily 3 times the length of their largest battlecruiser. Its hull design appeared crude and angular compared to the flowing organic curves favored by most civilized species. Massive weapon emplacements jutted from its surface like metallic growths, and its propulsion system generated energy signatures that defied conventional understanding. "Origin?" Zeltar asked, though he already suspected the answer. "Unknown, Commander. However, the vessel is approaching from the direction of the restricted zones, the areas marked as primitive species territory." A chill ran through Zeltar's secondary nervous system. The restricted zones contained hundreds of worlds inhabited by species that had not yet achieved faster-than-light travel. According to Galactic Council protocols, these species were to be left alone until they developed the technology to join the greater community naturally. Contact was strictly forbidden except in cases of extreme emergency. "Are you certain about the trajectory analysis?" Zeltar demanded. "Confirmed, Commander. The vessel originated from Sector 7 Alpha 9. That region contains only one inhabited system." Zeltar knew that system well. It contained a small yellow star with several planets, including one blue world teeming with a particularly violent species. The Council's xenobiologists had classified them as too aggressive for early contact. Their entire civilization seemed built around conflict and competition. Even their entertainment revolved around violence and war. "Impossible," Zeltar muttered. "That species barely achieved nuclear technology 50 of their years ago. Our last survey showed they had not even established permanent settlements on their own moon." Vixari's tentacles danced across her control panel, pulling up additional sensor data. "Commander, I am detecting massive energy outputs from the vessel. Power generation exceeds anything in our current fleet by a factor of 12. The bridge fell silent except for the constant hum of the ship's systems. Zeltar's mind raced through the implications. If a primitive species had somehow developed faster-than-light travel and weapons technology that surpassed their own, it represented a fundamental shift in the galactic balance of power. "Could this be a hoax?" he asked. "Perhaps another species using modified technology to appear primitive?" "Negative, Commander. I am reading unique metallurgical signatures consistent with the heavy elements found in their home system. The construction techniques also appear to match their industrial capabilities, albeit advanced far beyond what we thought possible." Zeltar activated the ship's long-range communication array. "Central Command, this is Deep Scanner Station Omega-7. We have detected an unidentified vessel of unknown configuration, requesting immediate analysis of all data regarding the primitive species in Sector 7 Alpha 9. The response came within moments. "Station Omega-7, this is Central Command. All data regarding the species you mentioned is classified. Maintain observation protocols and do not engage under any circumstances." "Understood, Central Command. However, the vessel appears to be equipped with weapons technology that exceeds our own capabilities." A longer pause followed. "Repeat your last statement." "Omega-7. The unknown vessel is displaying energy signatures consistent with weapon systems approximately 12 times more powerful than our current fleet standard." "Impossible. Maintain position and continue monitoring. Central Command is dispatching a full analysis team to your location." Zeltar closed the communication channel and returned his attention to the sensor displays. The unknown vessel had changed course and was now heading directly toward their position. Its speed remained constant, but the power readings continued to climb. "Commander," Vexari called out, her voice tight with concern. "The vessel has activated what appears to be a scanning array. They are examining our station with some form of directed energy beam. Are we in any danger?" "Unknown. The energy pattern does not match any known weapon configuration, but the power levels are enormous. Zeltar felt his scales prickle with nervous energy. In all his years of service, he had never encountered a situation like this. First contact protocols existed for meeting new species, but those procedures assumed roughly equivalent technological development. This scenario fell outside all established guidelines. The main display suddenly flickered, then resolved into a new image. Instead of the familiar sensor readouts, they now showed a detailed schematic of their own station. Every corridor, every room, every piece of equipment was clearly visible in perfect detail. "How is this possible?" Zeltar whispered. "They have somehow penetrated our hull with their scanning beams," Vexari replied, her voice filled with awe and fear. "The resolution is incredible. They can see individual components inside our most heavily shielded areas." The display zoomed in on the bridge, showing their exact positions with startling clarity. Zeltar could see his own image on the screen, rendered in perfect detail down to the nervous twitching of his facial tendrils. "Commander, they are hailing us." Zeltar's heart raced. "Are you certain?" "Yes, sir. Standard galactic communication protocols. They somehow know our language." The implications hit him like a physical blow. Not only had this primitive species developed faster than light travel and advanced weapons, but they had also learned galactic standard communication methods. Either they had been secretly observing galactic civilization for much longer than anyone suspected, or they possessed intelligence capabilities that defied understanding. "Put them through," Zeltar commanded, trying to keep his voice steady. The main screen cleared, and for the first time in galactic history, a member of the Galactic Council found himself face-to-face with a human being. The creature looked surprisingly similar to several known species, but there was something unsettling in its eyes. An intensity and calculation that spoke of a mind shaped by countless generations of conflict and survival. "Greetings," the human said in perfect galactic standard. "I am Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth vessel Indomitable. We've been monitoring your scanning activities in this sector. We need to talk." Commander Zeltar stared at the human face on his screen, struggling to process what he was seeing. The creature appeared calm and confident, showing none of the awe or fear that typically accompanied first contact with galactic civilization. Instead, Captain Chen studied him with the same analytical intensity he had seen in apex predators throughout the galaxy. "You speak our language," Zeltar managed to say, fighting to keep his voice steady. "We've been listening to your communications for quite some time," Chen replied. "Your people aren't very good at encryption. We've learned 17 different galactic languages in the past 6 months." The casual way she delivered this information sent chills through every nerve in Zeltar's body. The Galactic Council used quantum-encrypted communication systems that required massive computing power to decode. Even their most advanced artificial intelligence networks needed weeks to break the simplest messages. "Impossible," Science Officer Vexari whispered from her station. "Our encryption protocols have never been broken by any known species." Captain Chen's expression shifted slightly, revealing what humans called a smile. To Zeltar, it looked disturbingly similar to the threat displays used by carnivorous species across the galaxy. "Your security protocols assume that anyone trying to break them will use the same mathematical approach as you do," Chen explained. "Humans think differently. We had your communications decoded within 72 hours of first intercept." Zeltar felt his breathing slits constrict. "How long have you been monitoring us?" "Earth's deep space monitoring arrays detected your scanning networks approximately 8 months ago. We've been tracking all galactic traffic in this sector ever since. We know about your trade routes, your patrol schedules, and your classification of our world as a restricted primitive zone." The bridge fell silent except for the increasingly frantic beeping of alert systems. Every protocol Zeltar knew said he should immediately contact Central Command and request military assistance. But something about the human's demeanor suggested that might not be wise. "What do you want from us?" he asked. "Information," Chen replied. "We want to know why your Galactic Council has been observing our planet for decades while keeping us isolated. We want to understand the political and military structure of your civilization. Most importantly, we want to know if you represent a threat to Earth." Vexari's tentacles flew across her control panel. "Commander, I'm detecting multiple energy buildups across the human vessel. Whatever weapons they have are charging to full power. Chen noticed their increased activity. I wouldn't recommend calling for military backup, Commander. Your fleet wouldn't arrive in time to help, and we really do prefer diplomatic solutions when possible. When possible? Zeltar repeated. Humans have a saying, speak softly and carry a big stick. We're willing to talk, but we're also prepared to defend ourselves if necessary. Zeltar made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. Instead of following protocol and alerting Central Command, he chose to engage with the humans directly. I am Commander Zeltar of the Zephyrian Deep Space Monitoring Service. Our observations of your world are conducted under Galactic Council protocols, designed to protect developing species from premature contact. Protect us from what? From cultural contamination. From technologies you might not be ready to handle responsibly. From the knowledge that you are not alone in the universe until your species has achieved sufficient maturity. Chen's expression hardened. You mean until we're weak enough for you to control? No, that is not. Commander, let me share something with you. The main display shifted to show detailed schematics of Zephyrian technology. These are the blueprints for your scanning array, your propulsion systems, and your defensive weapons. We've analyzed everything from your hull composition to your food replicators. Zeltar stared at the displays in shock. The information was perfectly accurate, down to manufacturing specifications that were classified at the highest levels of Zephyrian military security. How did you obtain these schematics? We scanned your station the same way you've been scanning our planet for decades. The difference is that human scanning technology is significantly more advanced than yours. Vexari pulled up power consumption data from the human vessel. Commander, their scanning array is using more energy than our entire station generates. How is that possible? Chen heard the question through their open communication channel. Humans developed fusion power before we achieved spaceflight. We had antimatter containment systems before we colonized our first moon. By the time we developed faster-than-light travel, our energy generation capabilities exceeded anything your species uses by several orders of magnitude. The implications hit Zeltar like a physical blow. The Galactic Council's entire approach to primitive species contact was based on the assumption that technological development followed predictable patterns. Species that achieved spaceflight first developed fusion power later. Antimatter technology came after centuries of gradual advancement. Faster-than-light travel was the culmination of thousands of years of scientific progress. Humans had compressed that timeline into decades. Your species developed too quickly, Zeltar said, more to himself than to Chen. Evolution is a competitive process, Commander. Species that don't adapt quickly enough get eliminated. Earth has always been a dangerous place. We learn to innovate or die. The human captain leaned forward, her eyes intense. Now I have a question for you. How many other species has the Galactic Council kept isolated? How many civilizations are you watching, while pretending they don't exist? Zeltar hesitated. That information was classified. But he suspected the humans probably already knew the answer. 47 systems currently fall under observation protocols, he admitted. And how many of those species know you're watching them? None. The protocols require complete concealment. So you're running a galaxy-wide intelligence operation, monitoring dozens of developing civilizations without their knowledge or consent. Zeltar felt his worldview shifting. When described that way, the Council's policy sounded far more sinister than he had ever considered. The protocols exist to prevent interference with natural development, he said weakly. Natural development toward what goal? The question hung in the air like an unexploded weapon. Zeltar realized he had never questioned the ultimate purpose of the observation protocols. The Council simply monitored primitive species until they achieved faster-than-light travel, then initiated contact and integrated them into galactic civilization. But what if a species chose not to integrate? What if they developed technologies that threatened the existing power structure? I need to ask you something, Commander, Chen said quietly. What happens to species that develop too quickly? What happens to civilizations that become too powerful before the Council can control them? Zeltar's blood ran cold as he realized he didn't know the answer to that question. The silence stretched between the two vessels as Commander Zeltar struggled with Captain Chen's question. In all his years of service, he had never considered what happened to species that developed beyond Council expectations. The protocols only covered standard integration procedures for civilizations that followed predictable technological advancement patterns. I don't have that information, Zeltar finally admitted. Chen nodded as if she had expected that answer. We've been analyzing your galactic communication networks, Commander. We've found records of 47 species currently under observation, as you mentioned, but we've also found references to 12 other species that were previously monitored and then simply disappeared from all records. Vexari's tentacles trembled as she accessed her own databases. Commander, she's correct. I'm finding archived references to observation protocols for species that no longer appear in any current documentation. What happened to them? Chen asked. Zeltar felt a chill that had nothing to do with the station's environmental systems. I don't know. Such information would be classified far above my security level. Let me tell you what we think happened, Chen said, her voice taking on a harder edge. We believe the Galactic Council has been eliminating species that develop too quickly, or in directions that threaten their control. They monitor primitive civilizations, guide their development through subtle interference, and eliminate any that become inconvenient. That's impossible, Zeltar protested. The Council exists to promote peace and cooperation throughout the galaxy. Does it? Chen challenged. Or does it exist to maintain the status quo? To keep existing powers in control while preventing new ones from rising? The human captain gestured, and the main display showed a complex analysis of galactic political structures. We've mapped the power distribution among Council species. The same 5 civilizations have dominated for over 3,000 years. No new species has achieved major political influence in that entire time period. Zeltar studied the data with growing unease. The analysis was thorough and damning. Every species that achieved Council membership in the past 3 millennia had been integrated into subordinate roles, providing resources and labor for the dominant civilizations. The Council maintains peace through controlled stagnation, Chen continued. They prevent wars by ensuring that no one has the power to challenge the established order. Any species that might disrupt that balance disappears. You're suggesting a conspiracy spanning thousands of years, Zeltar said, though his conviction was wavering. I'm suggesting a system that naturally evolved to protect itself. The dominant species didn't necessarily plan this outcome, but once they achieved it, they had every incentive to maintain it. Vexari looked up from her console with an expression of growing horror. Commander, I've been analyzing the missing species data. All 12 civilizations were removed from records within 100 years of achieving faster-than-light travel. The pattern is too consistent to be coincidental. Chen's expression remained neutral, but Zeltar caught a glint of satisfaction in her eyes. Now you're beginning to understand our situation, Commander. Earth has developed technologies that exceed Council capabilities in multiple areas. By your own historical pattern, that makes us a candidate for elimination. The weight of the revelation settled on Zeltar's shoulders like a physical burden. He had devoted his entire career to serving what he believed was a noble cause. The discovery that he might have been an unwitting participant in genocide was almost too much to process. What do you want from me? He asked quietly. We want you to help us change the system, Chen replied. Humans didn't achieve our technological advantages by accepting limitations imposed by others. We innovated, we competed, and we evolved. The galaxy needs that same dynamic pressure to continue advancing. The Council will never accept such changes peacefully. We know. That's why we're prepared for conflict. Chen's expression hardened. But we prefer to avoid unnecessary violence. If we can find allies within the existing system, we might be able to reform the Council rather than destroy it. Zeltar looked at his crew, seeing his own confusion and fear reflected in their faces. Everything they had believed about their civilization and their role in the galaxy was being systematically dismantled. How can we trust you? Vexari asked. How do we know you won't simply replace the current system with one that serves human interests? Chen smiled again, and this time it looked less predatory and more genuine. Because humans thrive on competition and diversity. A galaxy where everyone thinks like us would be boring. We want a system where the best ideas win, regardless of who develops them. We want technological and cultural advancement, not stagnation. And if other species can't compete with human capabilities, then they'll need to get better or find other ways to contribute. But they won't be eliminated for trying. Zeltar made another decision that violated every protocol in his training manual. He activated his personal recording device and began documenting everything Chen had told him. What are you doing? Vexari asked. Creating evidence, Zeltar replied. If the humans are correct about the Council's policies, Then someone needs to preserve this information. Someone needs to ask the difficult questions. Chen nodded approvingly. That's exactly the kind of thinking the galaxy needs more of, Commander. Questioning authority, demanding evidence, refusing to accept convenient lies. But what can I do? I'm just a scanner station commander. I have no political influence. You have something more valuable than political influence, Chen said. You have access to information and the courage to use it. Help us understand the Council's command structure. Help us identify other species that might be sympathetic to change. Help us find allies before we have to fight everyone. Zeltar looked at his crew again, seeing uncertainty but also growing determination. They had all joined the service believing they were protecting innocent civilizations. The possibility that they had been enforcing galactic oppression was a betrayal that cut to their core. If we help you, what guarantee do we have that you won't simply become new oppressors? None, Chen admitted. But I can tell you something about human nature that might reassure you. We're too competitive and independent to maintain a stable empire. We barely manage to cooperate among ourselves, let alone dominate other species. What we excel at is innovation and adaptation. We force everyone around us to get better, including ourselves. The communication channel fell silent as Zeltar weighed his options. He could follow protocols, report the encounter to Central Command, and hope the Council could handle the human threat through conventional means. Or he could take a leap of faith and trust that change might be better than stagnation. His decision would determine not just his own fate, but potentially the future of galactic civilization itself. Commander Zeltar made his choice. He deactivated the automated reporting protocols that would have immediately transmitted their encounter data to Central Command. For the first time in his career, he deliberately violated direct orders. I'll help you, he said quietly, but I need to understand exactly what you're proposing. Captain Chen leaned back in her command chair, and Zeltar noticed the subtle change in her posture. The predatory tension had eased, replaced by something that looked almost like relief. We're proposing a gradual transformation of the galactic power structure, Chen explained. Instead of maintaining artificial stability through oppression, we want to create a system that rewards innovation and adaptation. Species that contribute valuable technologies or ideas gain influence. Those that stagnate lose power naturally. That sounds like chaos, Vexari observed from her station. It sounds like evolution, Chen corrected. Natural selection applied to civilizations. The strong survive, the weak adapt or find new niches, and everyone is forced to keep improving. Zeltar studied the human's face, trying to understand the mindset behind such thinking. Most galactic species valued stability and predictability above all else. The idea of deliberately introducing chaos into a functioning system seemed almost insane. Humans evolved differently than most species, Chen continued, as if reading his thoughts. Earth is a violent, unstable planet. We faced constant challenges from climate changes, natural disasters, competing species, and each other. We learned that adaptation wasn't optional. It was the only way to survive. Most civilized species outgrew such primitive competitive instincts long ago, Zeltar said. And look what it got them. 3,000 years of stagnation. No major technological breakthroughs. No significant cultural evolution. No new ideas or approaches to universal problems. Chen's voice carried a note of frustration. Your galaxy has been dead in the water since the Council established its dominance. The accusation stung because it contained undeniable truth. Zeltar tried to remember the last major scientific breakthrough to emerge from galactic civilization. He couldn't. All significant advances in recent millennia had been incremental improvements on existing technologies. What specific changes do you want to implement? He asked. Chen gestured and the display showed a complex organizational chart. We want to replace the Council's autocratic structure with a merit-based federation. Species earn representation based on their contributions to galactic welfare, military power, scientific advancement, economic productivity, cultural innovations, all would factor into political influence. The current Council, species would never agree to such changes. They won't have a choice if enough other species support the transformation. Vexari pulled up demographic data on galactic civilization. Commander, the 5 dominant Council species represent less than 20% of the total galactic population. If the remaining species united against them, it would be a revolution, Zeltar finished. Wars that could destroy galactic civilization entirely. Only if the dominant species choose to fight rather than adapt, Chen replied. We're hoping that rational self-interest will prevail. Some of the current council members have already begun reaching out to us through unofficial channels. This revelation shocked Zeltar more than anything else he had heard. Which species? I can't reveal specific details, but I can tell you that not everyone in the current power structure is satisfied with perpetual stagnation. Some recognize that continued technological and social advancement is necessary for long-term survival. The human captain activated another display showing stellar cartography data. This galaxy faces challenges that can't be solved with current technologies. Resource depletion in core systems, environmental degradation on dozens of worlds, long-term stellar evolution that will require massive engineering projects. The Council's conservative approach is completely inadequate for addressing these problems. Zeltar studied the data with growing alarm. He recognized some of the problems from classified reports that crossed his desk, but he hadn't realized the scope and urgency of the challenges facing galactic civilization. Humans have solutions for these problems? He asked. We have approaches that show promise. Fusion matter conversion for resource production, planetary engineering techniques for environmental restoration, stellar manipulation technologies for managing stellar evolution. But we need the cooperation of other species to implement solutions on a galactic scale. And if the Council refuses to cooperate? Chen's expression hardened again. Then we'll implement solutions independently, starting with the species currently under observation protocols. We'll offer them the choice between Council control and human partnership. The threat was subtle but unmistakable. Humans were prepared to create an alternative power structure that could potentially surpass the existing one. The Council would be forced to either compete or become irrelevant. You're asking me to commit treason against everything I've served, Zeltar said. We're asking you to serve a higher purpose, Chen replied. The advancement of galactic civilization rather than the preservation of political power. Zeltar turned to his crew, seeking their opinions. He saw uncertainty, fear, but also growing excitement. The possibility of meaningful change after millennia of stagnation was intoxicating. What do you need from us specifically? Vexari asked. Information about Council military capabilities and deployment patterns. Data on species currently under observation protocols. Intelligence about potential allies within the existing power structure. Most importantly, we need credible voices within the system who can testify to the need for change. Science Officer Mordan spoke up from his position at the analysis station. Commander, I've been monitoring human communication systems during this conversation. They're using quantum entanglement networks that operate faster than anything in our inventory. Their technological superiority isn't limited to weapons and scanning systems. Chen nodded. Humans achieved quantum communication breakthrough 40 years ago. We've been using it for all interstellar coordination since then. Your conventional faster-than-light communication systems are approximately 60% slower than ours. The implications were staggering. Military coordination, economic transactions, scientific collaboration, all depended on communication speed. If humans could coordinate their activities faster than the Council could respond, they held an enormous strategic advantage. How many human ships are currently operating in galactic space? Zeltar asked. Enough, Chen replied without providing specifics. But we prefer to avoid showcasing our full capabilities unless absolutely necessary. Overwhelming displays of power tend to trigger defensive responses rather than cooperative ones. Zeltar realized he was witnessing history in the making. Regardless of how the situation developed, the galaxy would never be the same. The only question was whether the transformation would happen through cooperation or conquest. If I help you, he said slowly. How do I protect my crew from Council retaliation? By ensuring that the transformation happens quickly enough that the Council can't strike back effectively. We need to present them with a fait accompli, a new reality that they have to accept rather than resist. Chen leaned forward, her eyes intense. Commander, this is bigger than just human ambitions or political maneuvering. The galaxy is facing existential challenges that require new approaches. The choice isn't between stability and chaos, it's between adaptation and extinction. 3 days after his initial contact with Captain Chen, Commander Zeltar found himself sitting in his private quarters, staring at a data crystal that contained enough classified information to destroy his career and possibly his life. The crystal held detailed intelligence about Council military deployments, communication protocols, and political structures, everything the humans had requested. He hadn't slept properly since the encounter. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the faces of his crew members who had agreed to help gather the intelligence. They trusted his judgment, and he was leading them into uncharted territory with potentially catastrophic consequences. A soft chime indicated an incoming priority message. Zeltar activated his personal communication terminal and found himself face-to-face with Admiral Korthak of the Zephyrian High Command. "Commander, you failed to submit your routine sector report 48 hours ago. Explain." Zeltar felt his breathing slits constrict. He had been so focused on the human situation that he had forgotten about standard administrative requirements. "Apologies, Admiral. We encountered some technical difficulties with our communication array. I was waiting for full system restoration before submitting the report." Admiral Korthak's expression remained neutral, but his eyes showed suspicion. "Technical difficulties that affected only your reporting capabilities while leaving your scanning operations intact?" "Yes, sir. The systems use different transmission protocols. Submit your report immediately, Commander. Central Command is particularly interested in any unusual activity in your sector." The communication ended before Zeltar could respond. His hands shook slightly as he realized the implications. Central Command was already suspicious about something. Either they had detected the human vessel through other means, or they had noticed irregularities in his station's behavior patterns. He activated his emergency communication system and sent a coded message to Captain Chen. The humans had provided him with quantum encryption, algorithms that were supposedly unbreakable by Council technology. He hoped their confidence was justified. Within minutes, Chen's image appeared on his private terminal. "Commander, you look distressed. What's happened?" "Central Command is asking questions about my delayed reports. I think they suspect something unusual occurred in my sector." Chen nodded grimly. "We detected increased military communication traffic in this region 6 hours ago. They're deploying additional fleet assets to investigate anomalous energy readings. How much time do we have?" "Approximately 18 hours before the first Council warships arrive in your sector. After that, maintaining operational security becomes significantly more difficult." Zeltar made a decision that surprised even himself. "I'm coming with you, Commander. If I stay here, I'll be interrogated about the missing time in my reports. If I run, they'll assume I'm either compromised or dead. Either way, my usefulness to your cause ends." He took a deep breath. "But if I disappear with valuable intelligence, they'll assume I was captured or eliminated by unknown hostiles. That preserves my crew's safety while giving you access to my knowledge of Council operations." Chen studied his face intently. "You understand that there's no going back? Once you board our ship, you'll be committed to seeing this transformation through to the end." "I understand. What about your crew?" Zeltar had already considered this problem. "They have plausible deniability. When the investigation team arrives, they'll find evidence of a catastrophic system failure that destroyed most of our recent data records. My crew will report that I was killed while attempting emergency repairs. And the real data?" Zeltar held up the crystal. "Everything you need is here. Military deployments, communication codes, political intelligence, and detailed analysis of Council capabilities." Chen smiled with genuine admiration. "Commander, you continue to surprise me. I'm transmitting docking coordinates now." 2 hours later, Zeltar found himself aboard the human vessel Indomitable, struggling to process the technological marvels surrounding him. The ship's corridors were lined with materials he didn't recognize, featuring properties that seemed to violate several laws of physics. The artificial gravity felt more natural than anything produced by Council technology. Even the air recycling systems operated with an efficiency that exceeded galactic standards by enormous margins. Captain Chen escorted him to a conference room where several other humans waited. Zeltar was introduced to the ship's senior staff, including Chief Engineer Rodriguez, who immediately began asking detailed questions about Zephyrian technology. "Your power distribution networks are fascinating," Rodriguez commented. "Incredibly inefficient by our standards, but elegant in their simplicity. We could probably improve your energy output by 400%, with relatively minor modifications. The Council discourages technological modifications that deviate from approved standards." Zeltar explained, "Of course they do. Innovation threatens their control. Rodriguez shook her head in disgust. We've analyzed 17 different Council technologies since beginning our intelligence operations. All of them could be dramatically improved with techniques that humans developed decades ago. Chen activated a holographic display showing galactic political maps. Commander, we need your assessment of Council response patterns. How will they react when they discover that humans have made contact with other species? Zeltar studied the display, noting the positioning of Council fleet assets and communication networks. Initially, they'll assume it's a probe by an unknown hostile species. Standard response protocols call for defensive positioning around core worlds while gathering intelligence about the threat. How long before they realize the scope of human capabilities? That depends on how much evidence you leave behind. If they only find traces of advanced technology, they might assume a limited incursion. But if they discover the full extent of your abilities, they'll panic, Chen finished. And panicked authorities tend to make poor decisions. Navigation Officer Kim looked up from her analysis station. Captain, we're receiving quantum communications from Earth Command. Operation Lighthouse has been authorized. Chen's expression grew serious. Commander, you're about to witness something unprecedented in galactic history. We're about to contact every species currently under Council observation protocols and offer them a choice. What kind of choice? Freedom to develop their full potential in partnership with humanity, or continue under Council supervision until they're ready for managed integration. The main display shifted to show 47 different star systems, each containing a species under Council observation. Zeltar recognized many of them from his own database access over the years. Civilizations that had achieved spaceflight but not faster than light travel. Worlds that had developed nuclear technology but remained confined to their home systems. Species that showed promise but were deemed not ready for galactic contact. You're going to contact all of them simultaneously? Zeltar asked, his voice filled with awe and terror. Within the next 6 hours, Chen confirmed. We have 47 ships positioned near each restricted system. Every captain has been provided with translation matrices, cultural analysis data, and preliminary technology packages. Chief Engineer Rodriguez pulled up technical specifications on her display. We're offering each species a basic faster-than-light communication system, advanced power generation technology, and defensive capabilities sufficient to resist Council interference. No strings attached. No strings attached. Zeltar couldn't hide his skepticism. What do humans gain from this? Allies, Chen replied simply, and proof that the Council's monopoly on galactic development can be broken. Once 47 new species achieve technological independence simultaneously, the existing power structure becomes irrelevant. The implications hit Zeltar like a physical blow. The humans weren't just challenging the Council's authority, they were making it obsolete. By providing advanced technology directly to developing species, they were creating an alternative path to galactic citizenship that bypassed Council control entirely. The Council will declare war, he said quietly. Against whom? Chen asked. Against 47 newly independent species? Against humanity, whose home system they can't even locate accurately. Against the principles of technological advancement and self-determination? Navigation Officer Kim announced from her station. Captain, all Lighthouse vessels report ready for simultaneous contact. Earth Command is requesting final authorization. Chen looked at Zeltar intently. Commander, this is your last chance to change your mind. Once Operation Lighthouse begins, there's no stopping the chain of events that follows. The galaxy will never be the same. Zeltar thought about his crew, still manning the monitoring station and probably discovering his staged death by now. He thought about the 12 vanished species that had developed too quickly for Council comfort. He thought about 3,000 years of stagnation enforced by beings who valued control over progress. Do it, he said firmly. Chen nodded to Kim. Authorize Operation Lighthouse. All vessels are cleared to begin simultaneous contact. The main display showed real-time feeds from human ships throughout the galaxy. Zeltar watched in fascination as first contact protocols unfolded on dozens of worlds simultaneously. Each approach was tailored to the specific species involved, but the message remained consistent. Humans were offering partnership, technology, and freedom from external control. How are they responding? Zeltar asked. Better than we hoped, Chen replied, monitoring the incoming reports. Most species are shocked but receptive. A few are suspicious. 2 have accepted our technology packages immediately and are requesting additional assistance. And the Council? Chief Engineer Rodriguez checked her monitoring systems. Council communication networks are going crazy. Emergency protocols are being activated across their entire territory. Military fleets are being scrambled, but they don't know where to deploy. The genius of the human strategy became clear to Zeltar. By acting simultaneously across the entire galaxy, they had created a crisis too large for the Council to handle through conventional means. No military force could respond to 47 separate incidents at once, especially when each incident involved species that were supposed to be primitive and harmless. "Captain," Kim announced, "we're receiving priority communications from 3 Council species. The Hegemony, the Dominion, and the Federation are all requesting immediate diplomatic contact." "Not the entire Council?" Chen asked. "No, ma'am. These 3 species appear to be acting independently of the main Council authority." Chen smiled with satisfaction. "Exactly as we hoped. The cracks in Council unity are starting to show." She turned to Zeltar. "Commander, I need your advice. These 3 species were on our list of potential allies within the existing power structure. How do we handle their overtures?" Zeltar considered the political implications. The Hegemony and Federation are pragmatic species. If they're reaching out independently, they probably recognize that the status quo is unsustainable. The Dominion is more mysterious. They rarely act without careful consideration. Recommendations? Accept their communications, but demand concrete commitments to reform. Don't let them stall for time while the Council organizes a military response. Chen nodded and activated the communication array. This should be interesting. The first diplomatic contact came from Ambassador Velthar of the Hegemony, a species known throughout the galaxy for their calculating approach to politics and their willingness to adapt when circumstances changed. "Captain Chen." Velthar's image appeared on the main screen, his scaled features showing carefully controlled tension. "I represent the Hegemony Council in emergency session. We wish to discuss the current situation developing across galactic space." Chen leaned back in her command chair, projecting calm confidence. "Ambassador, I'm listening. Your species has initiated contact with 47 restricted civilizations simultaneously. This action violates numerous galactic treaties and protocols. However," Velthar paused significantly, "we acknowledge that the effectiveness of your operation demonstrates capabilities that demand serious consideration." Zeltar watched the exchange with fascination. Velthar was essentially admitting that the Hegemony couldn't stop human activities while simultaneously trying to maintain diplomatic authority. "What are you proposing, Ambassador?" Chen asked. "A negotiated settlement. The Hegemony is prepared to sponsor humanity for immediate Council membership, with full voting rights and territorial recognition. In exchange, you would agree to operate within established galactic law and cease contact with restricted species." Chen's expression didn't change, but Zeltar could see the calculation in her eyes. "And the species we've already contacted? What happens to them?" "They would be processed through standard integration protocols under Hegemony supervision. Their transition to galactic citizenship would be accelerated, but managed to ensure stability, meaning you would control their development and limit their potential to challenge existing power structures." Velthar's features tightened slightly. "Meaning we would ensure their integration proceeds smoothly, without destabilizing galactic civilization." Chen stood up, and Zeltar noticed that her movement drew the attention of every human in the room. Their body language suggested complete unity of purpose. "Ambassador, let me explain humanity's position clearly. We're not seeking membership in the existing system. We're offering to help build a better one." Before Velthar could respond, Navigation Officer Kim announced another incoming communication. "Captain, the Federation is requesting immediate contact. Priority Alpha protocols." Chen gestured for Kim to patch them through. A second screen activated, showing Ambassador Kreshta of the Federation, a species known for their technological sophistication and militant approach to galactic politics. "Captain Chen, I am authorized to speak for the Federation High Command. We have monitored your activities and assessed your technological capabilities. We propose an alliance." Zeltar noticed that Velthar's image showed signs of alarm at this development. The Hegemony and Federation were traditional rivals, and the possibility of humans aligning with Federation interests clearly worried him. "What kind of alliance?" Chen asked. "Military and technological partnership. The Federation possesses the most advanced fleet in the galaxy, while humans clearly command superior scanning, communication, and power generation technologies. Together, we could reshape galactic governance to reward merit rather than tradition. And the 47 species we're currently assisting, they would be integrated into the new power structure as Federation allies, with protection guarantees and technological assistance. Full sovereignty within a mutual defense framework. Ambassador Velthar interrupted the exchange. Captain, the Federation seeks to use human capabilities to establish their own hegemony. They offer partnership only until they can acquire your technologies for themselves. Kreshta's warrior features showed anger. The hegemony speaks of stability, while maintaining systems that prevent innovation and advancement. They fear competition because they know they cannot adapt to changing circumstances. Chen watched the exchange between the two ambassadors with obvious amusement. Gentlemen, you're proving our point about the inadequacy of the current system. Instead of working together to address galactic challenges, you're competing for human alliance against each other. A third screen activated as the mysterious Dominion finally joined the conversation. Elder Zephyros appeared, his ancient features showing the wisdom of a species that had survived longer than any other known civilization. Captain Chen, I represent the Dominion Archive. We have observed this conversation with great interest. The appearance of a Dominion representative silenced both other ambassadors. The Dominion rarely involve themselves in galactic politics, preferring to observe and record historical developments. Elder, what is the Dominion's position on current events? Chen asked respectfully. The Dominion has witnessed 17 major transitions in galactic governance over the past 50,000 years. Each followed similar patterns. New technologies emerge. Existing powers attempt to control or suppress them. Conflict develops, and eventually new equilibrium establishes itself. Zephyros paused, his ancient eyes studying each face on the screens. Humanity represents the most significant technological advancement we have observed in 12,000 years. The current council structure cannot adapt to such capabilities within existing frameworks. Are you supporting human actions? Velthar asked, his voice tight with concern. We are recognizing inevitability. The question is not whether change will occur, but whether it will happen through cooperation or conflict. Chen leaned forward. Elder, what would the Dominion consider an acceptable outcome? A new governmental structure that rewards innovation while maintaining stability. A system that allows technological and cultural advancement without eliminating species that cannot compete directly. Diversity through specialization rather than uniformity through suppression. Chief Engineer Rodriguez whispered to Chen. Captain, we're receiving confirmation signals from 39 of the contacted species. They're accepting our technology packages and requesting additional assistance. Chen nodded and addressed the three ambassadors. The situation has moved beyond theoretical discussions. 39 species are now technologically independent and no longer subject to council restrictions. The old system is already obsolete. This could lead to galactic war, Kreshta warned. Only if existing powers choose conflict over adaptation, Chen replied. Humans prefer cooperation, but we're prepared for any eventuality. Elder Zephyros spoke quietly. The Dominion would be willing to facilitate negotiations for a new galactic charter. Our archives contain governmental frameworks that might serve as models for transition. Zeltar realized he was witnessing the birth of a new galactic order. The humans had accomplished in hours what would normally take centuries. They had forced every major power to acknowledge that fundamental change was inevitable. Captain, Kim announced, Earth Command is reporting successful contact completion with all 47 target species. Operation Lighthouse is complete, Chen smiled with genuine satisfaction. Gentlemen, the galaxy just grew by 47 new independent civilizations. The question now is whether we build something better together, or whether some of you prefer to cling to the past until it destroys you. As Zeltar watched the three ambassadors grapple with this new reality, he realized that humanity had